I'm Doug Massi, and in this video, we're going to talk about final expense objections and really why people object and how to overcome the objections. And let me just start by saying it really all begins with your presentation. And I'm going to ask you this before we roll the intro. If you agree with this topic, if you think that what I'm talking about makes absolute sense, hey, leave a comment. We don't get enough comments from you guys, and I really love your input. And I have no problem with you saying, hey, Doug, I really like this topic. Why don't you do a topic on this? So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll the intro and get her going. When it comes to objections, people make objections all the time, and if you're a sales professional, you've heard them all, especially if you've been doing this a long time or been in any type of sales business, whether it's cars or home improvements is where I came from. And it doesn't matter what type of insurance you're selling, whether you're selling term life, mortgage protection, final expense, or even like the senior market Medicare insurance. It all comes down to, in most cases with final expense, it comes down to the two main things are money, the cost, and trust. That's why, as I mentioned before, it's all up to the presentation for you to overcome a lot of that up front so that you don't have to deal with it as much towards the end. And let me just say, guys, people are going to make objections no matter what. I think the natural knee-jerk reaction to someone wanting to sell me something is to kind of get rid of that person. And that's why it all comes down to the two reasons they do it. Because you want to realize, is this about cost or is this about trust? This is what I'm going to ask you to please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. We're putting out new content all the time, and when you subscribe, make sure you have the notification bell turned on. To me, when I make a presentation, I want to make sure, and it's funny, I kind of switch it up. I'm one of those people, I've been doing this so long that my presentation's always a little bit different. But I usually do pretty much the same thing in every presentation. I'll either make a personal commercial, which it really is pretty simple. A personal commercial, by the way, it's like a short story that you share of yourself, how you got in the business, why you love doing what you do, and so that it kind of helps the client to relate. But I'm going to say, and I've mentioned this in other videos, another way, to me, really the best way to do this is to really use a photo album. It's kind of weird, not pull pictures on your phone, but to even walk in with a photo album. First of all, that old school photo album, it makes it easier for your client to relate to you. That's something they can relate to. I promise you. Your clients all have a bunch of those photo albums. So when you pull out the photo album and you start building rapport through photos of your family, to me, it kind of touches home a little bit better. And since we're talking about overcoming objections, I want to offer you something really good. If you'll stick around until the very end of this video, I'm going to show you how to get the Overcoming Objections super file. And what this thing does is it has scripts on how to overcome objections and basically what to say and do when you're door knocking your leads or calling to set appointments or making a presentation, especially when it goes down to the end and you go to close your sale and the client's like, well, I can't do anything with speaking with my cousin Joe first. Just stick around until the end of the video. I'll show you how to get this because it's pretty awesome. And I want to mention something that I think is very important. When you're new, and when I say when you're new in final expense, I don't care if you've been selling life insurance products your whole life, what have you, or insurance products. But when you're specifically targeting the final expense market and you're new, you really need to make a longer presentation that covers everything. Now, why do I say this? Because once you've been doing it for a while, if you're doing it the way that like our top agents do it, you're rolling out like 40, 50, 60 leads a week, and you're not going to be able to make such a long presentation. And I say that because you should be booked up on your field days pretty good. But when you're new and you're only working, the typical is 20 maybe direct mail leads, and some people We'll do like 20 direct mail leads and maybe get a few Facebook leads that they're either generating themselves or they're purchasing from a vendor every week. To me, that's enough leads for you to really work really, really hard and make your long presentation. And that's when you want to cover everything that we're going to talk about here. I like to use the 3 reasons presentation because that's how I get to the need, that's how I uncover the need, and that's how I find out about the beneficiary. So, Mrs. Jones, I've been doing this a long time, and I know that people fill out these cards generally for one of 3 reasons. So let's figure out where you fit in. The first reason may be that you've never prepaid for your burial or your cremation, or that you don't have any insurance at all for it. The second reason, a lot of folks do have these little burial policies, but in most cases it's just not very much, and most of us want to add to it if we don't have very much anyways. And then the third is the person who's basically got the funeral stuff arranged or taken care of, but the bottom line is you just want to make sure that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, your family does not have to come out of pocket to pay for anything. So, Mrs. Jones, of those 3, where do you fit in? And this is where we be quiet, let them answer, and this is where we find the need. Now, the idea is, what I like to do is I like to start getting them into what I call yes mode. I want them to start yes, yes, yes. So throughout the presentation, and I'm not going to share the presentation, that's not what this video is about. Here's a suggestion. Go to, and I'm going to try to remember to link it here, the Advanced Training playlist. It has videos that cover everything from door knocking leads to all the way at the end, how to deal with clients during your presentation. So I do suggest doing that. That playlist, again, if you want to come back to it or just write it down and you can look it up later, Advanced Training. So now that we've gotten the client to admit to a need, whatever it is, we've fit them in somewhere, what I'm always going to ask is, well, let me ask you, Mrs. Jones, when that day comes, who's the person that's going to come here and take care of all this and, well, take care of you? Who's going to be responsible for that? I am looking for, I love it when I get a family member, I want a name. That's really the main thing I'm looking for when I'm doing this. So, okay, so it's your daughter, Sarah. Is that correct? Okay, great. What I'll do is a lot of times I'll note the first name because I want to bring up that name throughout my presentation. I want to hit on it a few times because kind of brings up what this is about. And one of the things when they tell me, when I find out the beneficiary's name, then what I'll do is I'll start with more yes mode. I'll go, okay, so let me just make sure I've got this straight. So you just want to make sure that Sarah doesn't have to come out of pocket to take care of everything. And they'll always go yes. So that's the yes mode. That's what we want to direct them at. This is a form of neuro-linguistics programming. And this is something that I learned years ago. Years ago, I was a bit shy with people. And I would get nervous when I was talking to more than one friend, just 2 or 3 people, and I'd get a little uncomfortable, and it was difficult. It was something that I actually worked on. So through NLP, what I did is I learned how to view myself differently. In other words, I learned that the way I was seeing myself wasn't as big and scary through big, scary child eyes. It was more the other way around. It was more through, as if I was seeing a child. So when I started to perceive myself in a way where things weren't so scary through neuro-linguistics programming, I got much better at sales. Why am I bringing this up? Because one of the other side effects of NLP is, I like to use the word hypnosis. It's not really hypnosis. What I do during my presentation is I'm doing highly suggestive actions and making highly suggestive statements. This makes it that much easier for the client to say yes, so you get less objections. One of the things that I actually do that I picked up from studying NLP was to touch the client. So while I'm speaking with them, there's a point where maybe the second time I'll bring up their daughter, Sarah, throughout the presentation. What I'll simply do is just reach over and touch them on the leg. And I'll be like, oh, okay, right. So Sarah, so maybe we're just talking, I'll through the presentation and I'll get ready to start doing the pricing. And I'll ask them, I'll say, so does Sarah live nearby? And I'll reach over and touch them while I'm doing that. The key is I'm relating Sarah with that contact. That exposes a couple of things. To me, what I believe it actually does is it helps the client to maybe feel more comfortable, like, this guy, he's trustworthy. It sends this underlying message. It's just hard to describe, but that's really what it does. And once again, it's just one more thing that makes it easier for them to trust you, to build the rapport. One of the other things that I'm doing throughout the presentation, really at the beginning of the presentation, is I'm letting the client know that what we do is a lot different than most insurance agents. I work as a broker, and I'll tell them a story like maybe that I used to work as a Hartford agent and used to sell that product, but now what I do is, as a broker, I have access to all the best price carriers. And one of the things I'm going to be able to do, Mrs. Jones, is I'm going to ask you some questions about your health. Based on what you tell me, that's what helps me to find the best price company. And then I'm simply going to lay out a bunch of options for you so we can find something that you can afford. Because I know darn well that's the only way that this is going to work. Am I right? We're getting them still working with the yes mode. We want them to say yes, yes. That makes absolute sense. And guys, let me just say this, at this point, if you agree with what I'm doing, if you think the NLP thing is just going a little too far, say something in the comment section below. If you think I'm kind of right on the money and you realize maybe, hey, I'm kind of doing stuff like this, or especially if you've been in sales for a long time, whether it's an insurance sale or not, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the little contact, about the little things that I'm doing by putting yes into the client's brain, in a sense, and to get them to have it come out of their mouth when I ask them questions. Silly questions like I'm going to show you several options, and the idea is to find something you can easily afford, because I know that's the only way this is going to work for you. Am I right? By getting them to say yes in ways like that. And let me just go one step further. The whole idea of getting them in yes mode, it's like the only way to describe it, and I know we're not training a puppy here, and our seniors, I have complete respect for these folks, but we kind of do it the same way. You do little actions first. The puppy isn't going to do a backflip first. First you want to teach him how to do something basic like sit and then roll over. This comparison I'm going to use because at the end, once we have the option, the client has picked the option, we want them to once again say yes. We're going to get their social, and we're going to tell them, go grab a voided check. We're getting this pertinent information. So when I tell them, okay, perfect, go ahead and grab a voided out check, I want them to just get up and do it. That's this whole yes mode. We want them to feel as comfortable as humanly possible for you so that it makes it that much easier for you to help the client. And then I'll also get into the differences, the products, and I'll always say a statement like, Mrs. Jones, I know you watch TV all the time and you're getting the stuff in the mail and you're getting the phone calls. And I just want to go over real quick the difference between term life and whole life. And so that's what I'll do. I'll do that. I'll bust out the guarantees of whole life insurance and read that out to them, or I'll just explain them exactly how whole life is good for your whole life, and that term life is only good for a term of your life, and it's only designed to pay out if you die early. Whole life is going to pay when you're gone, hopefully a long time from now, because you're going to be around for a very long time. All the stuff we're talking about, it builds the rapport, and it really separates you from all the other insurance agents that they're seeing. Now, and let me just say this. There was a point when I was running 12 to 14 appointments in a day. Yeah, I know that's a lot. So I was not, I'm just going to admit it, I was not the greatest at building rapport at that time. I was taking more low-hanging fruit. But here's something that you might be able to relate to, and I'm going to say leave a comment if you agree with this or not. At some point, if you've been in sales a long time, you start to have this like spidey sense about it where you sense the client is a buyer, but they're just giving you a hard time. And so I'm bringing that up because even when I was doing 12, 14 appointments in a day, if I sensed that I was with someone that could buy, I would keep pushing. If I kind of got the feeling that I was spinning my wheels. Maybe they had a bunch of other insurance and it was just really difficult to overcome their objections, or they were giving me multiple objections. At some point, you gotta split. You gotta get out of there. Now, at the end, when it comes down to it and you get the old objection, I cannot afford it, that's when you do a price drop close. So you go back, you drop the price down, and I always show 5 options. My bottom price is usually around $60. So what I'll do is I'll cut it in half, and then I'll go and I'll say, can I make a suggestion? And then I'll just show it to them and I'll say, let's go ahead and go with this bottom option, the $35 option. That way Sarah isn't stuck having to pay for anything. Basically the idea is it's a price drop close because it's about cost. Now, if they start with I've got to think about it, I've got to talk to somebody first, they start with all that excuses, then it's coming down to the fact that you didn't build enough rapport. And you simply have to figure out your way to go ahead and go back and build rapport again, build more rapport. One of the things that I do is I'll pull out my driver's license, I'll show them I've got an old plastic insurance license that I like to show them. And I'll talk a little bit about how this business feeds my family and helps other people, and how it's one of the reasons that I really enjoy it is at the end of the day, I feel good about helping people and I know I did the right thing. I'll also go on my smartphone, and here's your pro tip. I've got a Wix website that it's real terrible, it's real cheesy, but it shows that I pay for my A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. I show them that, and I also go to the back page and I show them the About Me, which shows a picture of my wife and I holding a trophy. Stuff like this is going to make it that much better for you to go back, and once I do that, I will point to the bottom option. If I think they can afford it, I'll say something like, okay, great. Can I make a suggestion? So what I do is, let me just lead back into it. I'm showing them my photo, I'm showing them the website, and then I'm gonna go, can I make a suggestion? Just start with the bottom option. That way, at least Sarah's gonna have the bare minimum and won't be stuck having to pay out of pocket for anything. Go ahead and grab your driver's license. And that's how I do it. A lot of times when you sell it like that and you go that way for that second close, they will automatically just get up and go, okay, yeah, I can handle that. And the next thing you know, they're coming back with their ID. Guys, if you got something out of this video, please leave a comment. Again, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. We're putting out new content all the time. And if you'd like a copy of the Overcoming Objections super file that I mentioned earlier, and I'm telling you, this thing is great. It's got a lot of good tips written out in it. Just email me at doug@ufesonline.com. And if you'd like maybe to work with us to be part of our sales team as an independent agent, you can go ahead and shoot me an email at that same address. Remember, when you put the needs of your clients first, everything else will usually fall right into place. So get out there, guys, and do something good for someone today. Happy hunting.